What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Well, the Game Awards are happening tonight, and there's a lot of excitement. I mean, the hype for this thing is through the roof, more so than previous years, and we're not really seeing many people go around and actually try to dispel and calm down people. In fact, we're now to a point where, I mean, unbelievable announcements are even being discussed, and we're going to go over some of that here today. Also, we're going to be talking about Nintendo and the potential for a feature they could be baking into their next system that I wanted to take a look at because it kind of opens your mind to things outside of just a visual bump. And then we also have Sony and Bend Studio, as it appears maybe their next game, or at least idea for it, leaked out online. So if you guys enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members of the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button down below this video. And we're gonna start today with Astro, which has actually had a pretty nice cadence of updates that are just there for you to check out, like speedrun level, sure, but at the end you get new bots and stuff. It's been a lot of fun, right? For a game that I think is awesome, and yes, is one of the best games of the year as we see it in the Game of the Year contention, but they're not done yet. In fact, there's another update adding an entire level today. We can see this posted up. This is over on PlayStation blog, saying, as our way of saying thank you, it is my pleasure to announce that a whole new piece of free additional content is coming to Astrobot. Indeed, the little robotic elves of Team Asobi have been very busy preparing a whole new level called Winter Wonder, which would be coming live on Thursday, December 12th, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, you do have to have beaten the game for this special update to appear, but it looks pretty cool. And in fact, they mentioned it's not like a super challenging, it's kind of just go around, have fun, check out some of the winter holiday themed elements, and yes, collect new bots. So I really like how they've just been adding extra content for free to Astrobot. I mean, it's been quite substantial for a game that I kind of thought they were going to put out there, maybe fix a few things here and there through patches and then move on. No, Team Asobi's been sticking around for the rest of the year since its release, and who knows, maybe they have more substantial content for it for next year, but I wouldn't mind seeing them at this point to move on to even bigger and better things for Astro, but we'll keep an eye on them going forward, as I believe this would be the last piece of content for this year, most likely. Also, we do have an update for Nintendo and their ownership over Monolith Soft, which kind of feels like more of a technicality at this point, because Nintendo has actually owned 96% of Monolith Soft, at least up until recently. This we can see posted up. This was noticed by Automaton Media, who says that Monolith Soft's founders have maintained a symbolic 4% stake in the company, but it seems Nintendo has acquired the remaining shares. We don't know when exactly this happened, but you can see that Takahashi, etc., still own 4% of Monolith Soft, at least until March this year, when their company brochure for 2024. But as of now, Nintendo owns 100% of Monolith Soft. It makes sense. They do a lot of work, sure, on things like Xenoblade, but also a lot of support work for things like The Legend of Zelda with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So they're very important to Nintendo, and yeah, they would want to bring them in completely, even though 96%, again, kind of a technicality to then just scoop up the remaining 4%, but it is at this point what it is when it comes to business. So yeah, big things I'm sure coming from Monolith Soft with maybe a new Xenoblade, or, I mean, who knows? I hope they work on something brand new and they get to take advantage of the next system, because we've seen what they can do with weaker hardware, even down to the Wii. They did some impressive stuff on the Switch. What can they do when we see a new chip from NVIDIA, DLSS, the whole thing? How much bigger can they make their world? I guess we'll find out. Oh, and in a previous episode, we had talked about Unreal Tournament and how Epic had completely opened up some of the very early versions of those games to just public use, as in you didn't have to pay for it, it was just free to download and play, and they gave it the go-ahead. And now, in fact, if you're trying to find it a bit easier, they've set up an entire website right here, and this does seem to go along with the secret level, the episode they had there, and which, by the way, half of those are live now, and one of them does include Unreal Tournament. But if you scroll down, they do have Unreal, so you can download that, Unreal Tournament. And they also go through the history with Unreal Tournament 2003, Championship 2, 3, 2024, or 2004, etc. So it's kind of a cool timeline to see all the different Unreal games here for Tournament, but also an easy way to just kind of click and go download and check them out from a more, I guess, official website here from Epic themselves. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and a potential feature they could be leveraging for next generation. Now, this comes way of a patent that, while was brought back up this week, is something that's actually been around and discussed for a couple of years now. But I think it's an interesting idea for Nintendo and does work to sort of take the immersion factor to the next level. And it is kind of something we expect them to do, especially after some of the stuff they were able to accomplish with the Switch and those Joy-Cons. We can see this, though, over on Go Nintendo. They say, as discovered by Mike Odyssey, Nintendo has secured a patent for a joystick that actually changes how it feels as you play a game. This is due to a special liquid that has changed from free-flowing to solid when hit with a magnetic field. Now, as I mentioned, this is something we discussed previously, and Nash Weedle did chime in mentioning actually a post they made back in 2022 covering the same thing here with images from the patent and everything. And I mean, it's an interesting idea when it comes down to it, the idea of having a liquid that can become more and more solid based on like electricity that you run through it. I assume just the amount will change, I guess, just its liquid state to more solid. And in that case, let's say you're going up people imagine like going up a slope, or like a hill, and it's harder and harder for your character to run. They get a little slower, and you're like, you see it, but you don't actually feel it in the joystick. Technically, you can have almost forced feedback sort of input. So you're going up, and it's getting harder and harder to press that stick up. That's actually kind of a cool idea. Or even in quicksand, where it's getting harder and harder for your character to trudge through it with their legs. Technically, that could translate over to the stick as well. So, I mean, there are some very interesting and compelling ideas that can be had. Now, I will tell you from a repairability side, that sounds kind of like a nightmare, and mostly because then you'd have specialized thumbsticks, which we saw everything that happened with the drift. That would be kind of tough. That would be. And actually, when it comes to third-party controllers, that would be a nightmare as well to figure all of that. I mean, it was several years into the generation before we even saw someone try HD Rumble for third-party and NFC tech as well. So it's just like one more thing to throw in there for the potential of competing controllers that aren't just from Nintendo. But I like the idea of continuing to build on the controller. The other question is, will it be a feature that's used heavily? There are many people who have never used the IR port on their Joy-Con before, right? So like there are things that just go underutilized in general because it just doesn't fit in to what many developers want to do. But movement with joysticks is something that basically everyone uses in some way for the most part. So I feel like if it's something that's easier to implement, why not? It kind of goes hand in hand to me with HD Rumble. Now, again, there's a patent. Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be utilized, but it is an interesting one and something that I think would actually make sense to work to set it apart a bit from the current Switch. And that's going to be a big task Nintendo has to figure out. How do you make the Switch 2 not just feel like, I mean, really a Switch Pro at that point, a mid-gen refresh? You do things like this to differentiate the control scheme even from that original system. So something to keep in mind going forward, something different than just the idea of making the graphics better. And I think that's kind of the direction we're going to go in general with the diminishing returns that we're seeing now. But in Nintendo's case, it probably won't be too diminishing based on some of the frame rates and some of the visuals we see with the Switch, especially with third parties. I think there's still plenty of room for Nintendo to grow technically when it comes to the visuals. Next up, let's talk about the Game Awards. Those will be happening later on tonight. And I'm telling you, I'm seeing some of the games that are now being kicked around as rumor and potential to be announced here. And it's getting kind of out there. It's getting like 4chan post territory with some of the most random stuff appearing. But then you get some somewhat solid backing, and you're like, really? Could this finally be it? Well, let's go through a few of them here again to kind of get you prepped and probably overly excited and most likely susceptible to disappointment when it's all done. But we do know that there's at least been two games or two announcements that have been mentioned by Jason Schreier. There'll be like these massive, like, wow, I can't believe that actually got revealed here kind of moments. So what would cause that? Because there are a few games I'm sure that come to mind, and one of them is Half-Life 3. And while it's been a long-running joke for quite some time, this is actually something that people are looking at as it could happen, believe it or not. Like, so for example, this message made the rounds heavily on social media, and it was from Half-Life Alex No VR saying, former Apple employee with a current focus in the IR, XR, VR industry says they heard this rumor about Half-Life 3 being revealed at the Game Awards tomorrow by Gabe, and Gabe Newell will be there? Oh, that'd be interesting. But this is, we can see Nima here, who, has worked with Apple and several other things in the VR XR space, saying the rumor I heard, I'm not kidding here, is that Gabe will be there to announce Half-Life 3. They do go on, though, to say that they personally don't believe it, but that could be what Jason's talking about. And you know what? I will say this. I really haven't seen anyone go, no, guys, that's not going to be a thing. Whereas Jason Schreier did say, no, I'm not talking about Bloodborne, guys. didn't really say much about this one, and it's spread quite a bit to where people actually are thinking it could be a thing. Now, to go from there, some stuff we do have confirmed. Borderlands 4, we should see more of a trailer there. I assume gameplay, in-game visuals, that kind of thing. Split Fiction, which was relayed to us by D-Labs. This would be from Hazelight, who's turned in some really, really good stuff. A Way Out, right? That being a big one there. It Takes Two, Game of the Year winner. So a lot of eyes, I'm sure, will be on them and what exactly they have planned when it comes to Split Fiction. Apparently, Pac-Man is going to present something here. This was tweeted out with a secret that they will present during the opening act. So you want to be there early to see what Pac-Man has in store for us. I mean, it could be a new game, it could be merchandise. It's hard to say. I will tell you, that is one of the more creative secret level episodes was Pac-Man, because you go, what are they going to do with that? And it's not at all what I expected. So check that episode out. It was very interesting. Now, PlayStation is seemingly gonna be here, okay? So there's a lot of smoke around this one, especially after Shinobi posted on the PlayStation thread on Reset Era, hey, you may want to stay up for this, it's gonna be pretty cool. And at this time, Naughty Dog is actually believed to be there. Naughty Dog's new IP. That, or I guess Wolverine, that could be one, right? I mean, Wolverine, we heard that there would be some kind of showing for it before the end of the year. This seems like a good venue for it. Okay, why not? But if Naughty Dog did show up here, yeah, I think it'd be pretty big. Like, if they were there and able to showcase it somewhat, since Naughty Dog has not had a good run of things recently since their live service Last of Us was canceled. It'd be good to see them show up here with something that could get people excited again about their studio, right? And not being a Last of Us Part 3, I think Last of Us Part 3 would still be exciting, but like, a new IP, I think, would be that extra bit of, okay, cool, something original, something new, something mysterious. All right, we're off and running again with Naughty Dog. And look, I have to throw this in there. I mean, we do it every time, right? Silksong, is this finally the time that we see this thing? Because at this point, people are just, I think, almost tuning out now, since it's been like disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. But you know, people are going to be in the chat, in the comments, like, okay, where's Silksong? Where is it? And if it's not there, yeah, maybe it'll be overridden a little bit by Half-Life 3, but you know, people are still going to ask. So I'm crossing my fingers for Silksong. Sure, Half-Life 3. Wouldn't that be something if it was like Half-Life 3 and then Silksong back-to-back announcements? I mean, it's hard to take anything away from Jeff Keighley then, because then all you can really do is say he probably put on a pretty good show. Next up, let's talk about Sony Bend Studio, as it appears their game, or at least the game idea, has leaked out. Now, this is something that was shared over on MP First, and we can see that here. They also had a bunch of screenshots that we'll get to in a moment, but they say the discovery comes from an online portfolio of a UI designer who worked at Bend Studio from 2022 until March of this year. In the resume, we can see that he worked on an unannounced Bend Studio project, but the interesting part lies within images of their work, where we can find designs for project he worked on, including concepts related to a project from Bend. Despite not knowing the exact date of this material, we know that the only video in the list comes from a Google Drive file uploaded in 2023. This suggests that the other images might also be from the same year, possibly from 2022. Now, when you look at the images, okay, third-person military-style shooter. But then you look at the UI, and then you look at some of the other elements, which includes wardrobe, rank, they have hub director, transfer station. It kind of, little reminiscent of something like more sci-fi Division, I guess. But when I say that, you start to go, wait a minute, is this a live service multiplayer game? Well, it kind of looks that way, and that's, okay. I know people right now aren't exactly thrilled when they hear about Sony dedicating one of their, I'll say, better studio. Like Ben, they had Days Gone. I'm not the biggest Days Gone person, but people did like it. And it seemed like it got a bit of a resurgence when they did the updates and stuff. And it looks and runs better on the PS5, went to PC. Okay, cool. And I guess a remaster is coming. At least that's the rumor. Maybe get a second win then as well. But there's still talent there. They put out, I think, at least an interesting game. So when you hear about this, I get it. People immediately requote online, like, whoa, wait, a third-person military shooter that's live service from Ben? I don't know about this. I will tell you, though, let's say that is what they're doing. They go all the way through, and then at the end of it, the title card comes up and it's SOCOM. I bet you people's thoughts immediately flip, like, oh, finally, SOCOM. Yeah, I'm glad Ben's doing this. So I get the I guess, the habit to recoil from live service with Sony right now after what happened with Concord, but I would at least be interested to see what Bend Studio has in store for us before I completely write it off. Or who knows, maybe it's not live service and it's still kind of multiplayer, but not quite diving into the idea of battle passes and all the typical tropes of it. Or who knows, maybe this is just a scrapped idea. Although the timing, everything else here lining up, it's pretty close, and it does seem like they were doing some stuff that isn't necessarily far enough along to where they're just scrapping all of it and starting over. So at this time, yeah, pinch of salt, but maybe expect something like a third-person military shooter from Bend Studio until they show us otherwise. And then our last bit of news, let's talk about PlayStation Plus for the month of December. This would be for the extra and premium tier, which we already saw some of the retro games that would be added for the premium classic tier, which we'll get to soon, but there are still some other games that I think are pretty good dropping in here for December, which we can see this over on PlayStation Blog. These will be live starting December 17th, starting at the top. Sonic Frontiers. I mean, if you haven't played it, it's a very different and interesting Sonic game, I'll say, with all kinds of fun popping. No, look, the Sonic fans out there see this as a good foundation for Sega to continue building on. I think they will. So definitely worth checking out here if you have not already. The other one, Forspoken. This is another situation where it came out, it wasn't well received, but over time, I think people have warmed up to it somewhat. Technically, it's part of your subscription. I think it's definitely worth at least downloading just to try it for yourself, just see what you think. But the writing and stuff was kind of off-putting, sure, but it's an interesting looking and playing game. And since I'm not telling you to go buy it for $70, just download it. Yeah, I would recommend it there. Then we have Rabbids Party of Legends. I have unfortunately not played this one, but it is going in. We also have WRC Generations, Fist Forged in Shadow Torch. That was actually a pretty cool 2D side-scrolling game that had some interesting combo sets and stuff. I did a video on that actually a while ago, and yeah, it's a good game. I would recommend that one. Jurassic World Evolution 2. Coffee Talk, which I've brought that up before, and I'm trying to remember who said, they said it was good, actually, Coffee Talk. Not really my kind of game, but people seem to enjoy it. And then Coffee Talk Episode 2. We have A Space for the Unbound, which that was in our Game of the Year Madness last year and was rated pretty highly, and people thought very highly of it. So that's another interesting one to point out there. We have Fogs. Have not played that, but it definitely reminds me of Cat Dog immediately when I see it. And we have Biped. Another one I haven't tried out, but they say it's a co-op action-adventure game that emphasizes real-time collaboration between two players. So pretty cool. You have a nice co-op game there. Play with a friend. PlayStation Plus Premium. We already know about these Sly 2 Band of Thieves. We have Sly 3 Honor Among Thieves. And Jak and Daxter, which we already had Jak and Daxter on the kind of the PS4 release. This is a new release using that PS2 emulator, and there are new trophies for it. Same with Sly 3, same with Sly 2. So that is an awesome update for the classics, especially since you can technically play Sly 1, 2, and 3 all right there on your PlayStation 5. And then for PSVR 2, it's a good one. Star Wars Tales from the Galaxy's Edge. That's one I played on my PSVR 2 when I first got it, and I thought it was a pretty fun Star Wars game. It has, I think, a pretty good sense of action, and there is a lot of the, hey, you're in first person, so do all this extra stuff to get the use out of your sense controllers, but I think it was a pretty fun sort of run and gun style Star Wars game there, kind of almost like bounty hunter style game, but still not a bad month. I mean, not like a great month, but nothing terrible here. Again, Sonic Frontiers, I think that's a good one to check out. But the classic, got to check out the classics. Sly 1, 2, and 3. If you've never played them, I'd say they're almost must-plays, actually, from that PS2 generation, so check them out. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, which hypothetical announcement would be the most shocking to you at the Game Awards if it happened? Okay, Half-Life 3 is number one, and yeah, that makes sense. We have a new console, a handheld, or hardware, something new here, hardware-related, 27%. And then you have Bloodborne Remake or Remaster at 19%, and then a Naughty Dog new IP at 10%. Yeah, I think we can kind of all agree, for the most part, if Jeff actually pulled off Half-Life 3 at an event, I mean, that would be like legendary status. It feels like that's a year I feel like most people will remember then. It's like, remember when Jeff got the Half-Life 3 reveal? People still remember him for that Xbox Series X reveal when that was initially shown, since it was a brand new console generation that he locked down for his show to make its first announcement. So if he got Gabe Newell out on stage, and then he announces Half-Life 3, and then he turns around and announces the Valve Steam box, the home console, that would be wild stuff. But But let's just start with Half-Life 3 because even that seems kind of like a pipe dream. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as we're seeing here. This is from Reshu, who says, how do people even figure this stuff out? People are desperate for any Switch 2 news at this point. I mean, we're also kind of getting to the end of like that timeline that Nintendo themselves set for end of March, but I think people also just kind of enjoy following along with any of the Switch 2 rumors or even leaked shipment logs and trying to figure out this, and this. Like, there is a lot of stuff that goes on with that on different forums, and they kind of just have fun conversing about it, and eventually the thing will be shown, and then we'll kind of take off from there to release. It'll come out, and then we'll have all kinds of games and updates and features and stuff to go over. So on one end, it's kind of like the season finale of a big season that's been going on forever when the thing finally gets revealed, but then the next season starts up almost immediately as we head towards release. So people are just having fun with it, but yeah, there is some desperation because it has been so long in this console generation. There's no handheld next to this thing. It's like this is Nintendo's one hardware line with the Switch, and it's been a while since they first introduced it. So yeah, people getting kind of antsy to hear about what's next for them, especially in terms of technology, since it is still a chip from 2015. And ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card, or maybe you wanna take a look at the Players' Voice Awards at the Game Awards that, well, we called for it, and I think it may have backfired a bit. I'll leave that right below it. Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.